Hey, this is Neil Bawa, the mad scientist in multifamily, and you're listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
All right, welcome to the Mailbox Money Show. I'm your host, Bronson Hill. I'm super excited today. I'm excited most days, but I'm especially excited today because we've got an amazing guest. We've got Gideon Spencer, who I was on his show recently. He does boutique hotels, and he's just an awesome guy, just a really great networker, great mindset guy. So we relate on a lot of those things, and I just have some great values as well. But I want to welcome my co-host. I've got Nate Hambrick with me in the house, the two-time best-selling author of especially the recent book, The 18 Laws of Leverage. How's it going, Nate?
Oh, it's going. I'm excited to chat with Gideon today. It's going to be an awesome chat.
We're gonna have a good time. Let's talk about this for a minute, Nate. I know we've had some really unique, different assets on this show, and I think we had boat marinas recently. We did coffee farms in South America in the past. I guess when you look at a new asset that you haven't invested in before, how do you kind of get comfortable with that?
Ultimately, you know the old adage that you have to hear something 7 times before you retain it. I would apply that to investing. You have to hear 7 people talk about the asset in 7 different ways to where you can fully have a grasp on it. Because even if you understand what they're saying, at the end of the day, you don't really understand something until you've done it yourself, or you've had enough conversations from enough different viewpoints that you understand it at a baseline and can regurgitate it in your own words. So that's why I love these conversations, because you don't know what you don't know until you hear somebody talk about it.
And that's really it, is that, and some of us think, well, I guess I'm just a slow learner. It's like, well, we're all kind of that way. We all kind of need to hear some different things in different ways and different times. And Nate, you're one of the smartest guys I know. So for you to say that, thanks for being vulnerable there and sharing that. And, you're definitely not slow. You're like the rest of us. So that's good to know. Awesome. Gideon, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm stoked.
Awesome, man. Well, we had a great chat. One thing I wanted to talk with you about before we get into boutique hotels is that I think you and I have a lot in common, where we love being in great rooms. We put together great rooms, put together great, boutique events. You do boutique hotels and boutique events that are hand selected with people to try to help grow. What is it about being in a room or at a high ticket or some sort of event where, you can, you kind of be a part of it? What really opens up when you've been a part of some of those events?
So I would say it really comes down to being effective with your time and resources, right? So if you are trying to accomplish something brand new, like for me it was buying boutique hotels, the best way to do that is to engage with people who have done the thing that you're trying to do. So the next question is, how do I engage with people who have done the thing that I'm trying to do? And the answer is to go to where there's a high concentration of those people, right? This goes for anything, whether you're selling a product, if you're selling makeup, how do you go to find a high concentration of people who will consume that product? And so that's really what these boutique rooms are. Is I would rather go to a room with only 30 people, and of those 30, 25 of them are exactly who I'm looking for, over going to a conference with 1,000 people and 1% of them are who I'm going for, right? So just being much more effective with time. I'm also not at all a fan of these big conferences. For people who like them, that's great, go for it. I would much rather be targeted about reaching out to specific people on social media, or curating a room with a high concentration of people who I care about building meaningful relationships with. So like at the end of the day, we're tribal social creatures, and we only have the capacity to fit so many people in our minds at a time. And so making sure that those people are as high quality as possible in as high concentrated a room as possible is generally the most effective strategy I've found.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I think, one thing I've realized, I'm a people person, but I get peopled out. And if I have to go through 10 people to get to one person who's actually the person I want to talk to, I'm kind of done. You go through 3 people, I'm kind of done. So if you curate a room, it can create magic. And the way I can describe this is, somebody is there, you get a group of peers, you start kind of, masterminding on a problem, which is just getting 2 or 3 or more together, just kind of, how do I solve this? And for wealthy people, it's not just how do I make more money and how do I invest more. Those are definitely a part of it, like the group we do, the Wealth Forum, which is high net worth people. But a lot of it's like we were talking, it's how do I raise my kids so they're not spoiled? How do I, grow? What's next for me in life? I've achieved all these things. What do I do? How do I give back to the world? And so I think it can be incredibly valuable. Nate, why don't you talk for a minute too about kind of what you've gotten from being in amazing rooms and how you determine what events you're going to be a part of. So, like, there's things going on all the time, and you have 2 young kids now, or you have one and one on the way, right? Is that you got your hands full? Yeah.
My daughter's due here in February.
Hey, congrats, man. I have a 1-month-old little girl, so I'm like, and it's my first, so I'm fresh into it.
All hands on deck, man. That's like boot camp right
That's
there. Just any time of day or night.
I'm excited to be a girl dad, and I'm this has been on my mind a lot, Bronson, because I just spoke at the Residential Assisted Living Conference on Friday, so like 3 days ago. And when I get in those rooms, and I need to get into more of them, I probably do it maybe 12 to 15 times a year, so about once a month. You meet 1 or 2 people that think about life differently than you, that have been either the same success or more successful than you, but specifically people that think differently than you, that challenges your perspective on the way that you view life. And so I'll give you, this is kind of a random example, but my wife and I were just talking about it. I was at a conference, the whole Entrepreneur Summit, about 3-4 weeks ago, and I met a guy, and he does credit card point swapping. So he takes credit card points on one card, moves it over to Chase, moves it over to this card, moves it over to this card, and by the end of it, he has a $60,000 trip to Europe paid for on United Emirates in those private suites. Now, I've never been on a suite inside of an airplane, okay? But for the low price of $1,000, you can hire this guy to take the credit card points you already have, swap them all around in a bazillion different ways, and then give you these free trips. I did not know that was a thing. Now, is a free trip to Europe going to absolutely change my life forever? Maybe for my wife, actually. That's actually really
it might change, in your marriage. You never know.
But no matter how successful you are, no matter how good you are at raising your kids, you're going to meet these people that know something that you did not only did you not know how to do it, you didn't know it was a thing. Right? And so that's what I love about the Wealth Forum. That's what I love about RAL Limitless. You meet these people that think about life from a completely different lens. And so I was just having multiple conversations with my wife about it, of like, I'm going to prioritize those events. I'm going to prioritize those rooms. And then I'm going to stop work at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. every single day. And eventually I'm going to stop work at 10 a.m. every single day, because those events are so high leverage. They put me in with the right people that can solve different challenges at a much higher level, that I don't have to work like everybody else. And as a future girl dad, that means that I get to be present with my daughter and my son. And I hope to have 4 or 5 kids, maybe more, who knows. I get to be present with them. So
when you're done by 10 a.m., you got to, fill your time somehow, right?
I need 10 kids at this
running
point.
around, and that's good. So Gideon, I know you, your show is The Hunt for Incredible, and I was, talking about incredible, I was really impressed by the way that you really develop yourself. What are some ways that you are intentional on growing? Like, what's your idea about growth mindset and how you, try to improve just from a personal development standpoint?
Oh man, that is such a good question. And I feel like that is such a fundamental and high leverage question. I always view questions in terms of their leverage. Like, how many questions does this one question answer, right? So like, how do you distill down to a single question a way that you can level up your life across the board, right? So that's high leverage. Lower leverage might be like, oh, how do I improve my bicep, right? It's like, okay, the answer to that question only improves your bicep, whereas the question of how do you level up your life as a whole is very high leverage. It spans across. It might include the question of how to improve your bicep, how to improve your finances, etc. So I love how fundamental that question is. I would say it starts, and we talked a lot about this on my show too, it starts with the mindset of how you approach any question. And the mindset that I prefer to approach is one where I am genuinely trying to discover the authentic version of myself. So we live through life, we go through life with these false narratives that we believe about ourselves.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I'm not very social, people don't like me, I'm unattractive. And these are all built off of experiences that we've had in our lives that create these false narratives. Like, maybe I think I'm ugly because Sally in 2nd grade told me I had a funny nose, and so since then I've been self-conscious about my nose, thinking I'm ugly. But Sally doesn't know anything about noses. Like, why is she the one who determines my beauty, And so we have
Real quick, have you ever taken the Landmark Forum?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of this? So there's a group called Landmark Education. I want to interrupt you for one sec because I just went through it for the third time. It's a 3-day kind of transformational event. It's very different. Nate's going to come tonight. There's an info webinar on it. And it's like, it gets into this, like the story that Sally made about my nose or about my life, whatever. And we live out of those stories as an adult. So for example, I was 7 years old. My parents are divorced. My mom came in and said, your dad and I are getting a divorce. And I felt like the story I made up as a 7-year-old was if I were more important, my mom would still be here, right? And so I just felt like I have to be important. I've got to be exceptional. I've got to be an achiever. So a lot of my achieving comes from that place, which is not a healthy place, right? It's not an authentic place. It's a place that's a hustle, but it came from a 7-year-old who made up a story. Yeah. And as a 40-year-old, I'm still living out of that story. And once I realized, oh, this was never true in the first place, all kinds of options open up. So it sounds like you've been able to create a more authentic way of living out of kind of breaking down those stories.
Yeah, 100%. So the first step is knowing and accepting that 95% of what you believe about yourself is fabricated and built off of these external factors or experiences that can be just as easily removed as they were created. That's the second part, is first acknowledging that these are false narratives. Second is accepting that they can be rewritten with the same level of efficacy that they were originally written with. And then the third step is identifying those things and adjusting them. By the way, I'm getting some static. I don't know if that's just me.
Maybe we can mute if we're not talking. Maybe we can just kind of mute ourselves there.
Okay. So that's the first part, is really questioning and challenging these narratives that we believe about ourselves. Number two is realizing that we can rewrite them with the same level of efficacy that they were originally written with the same speed. So when we're born with two fears and two fears only. The first is the fear of falling, and the second is the fear of loud noises. Everything after that is fabricated based on experiences. So with that, we lead to the third step, which is identifying those things. And what I like to do is I write out I am statements, right? So everybody's like, oh, affirmations, I do that too. I take it a step further, and I identify the affirmations that I don't believe with my full heart. And then I break down why I don't believe them. So perfect example, I've been playing with the idea of starting a mastermind for about 1.5 years. And when I was listing out the affirmations, one of them was like, I have a community with X number of people and I'm changing people's lives. And I looked at that and I realized, like, oh, I don't believe that I can actually do that. Like, I don't believe that I can build and scale a community that changes people's lives. So the next step was I wrote out all of the reasons why I didn't believe it was true. In other words, I was writing out my self-limiting beliefs, the thing that was holding me back that exclusively lived in between my ears. And once I wrote it out, I don't believe that I can maintain high-quality relationships with a large group of people over a prolonged period of time. Like, that was the core of what I realized I didn't believe. I didn't believe I could effectively maintain good friendships with the scaled group for a prolonged period of time. And when I broke that down and I asked myself why I didn't believe it, I realized that it was a lie. I have no idea where in my life that was introduced, but I love public speaking. I love hopping on podcasts and chatting with great people like you. And I have friends that I've had for decades, so I can maintain relationships for prolonged periods of time. So why wouldn't I be able to maintain scaled relationships for prolonged periods of time? And it was in that moment, literally just from writing it out and looking at that self-limiting belief and realizing there's no evidence as to why that should exist, that in the snap of a finger, that self-limiting belief was removed and I was able to move forward with kicking off the community and changing people's lives. But it all started with identifying this. And I had been wanting to start a community for over 1 year. It was an idea that I was like, oh, I would love to do this, but I was just busy doing other things. And I didn't believe in myself that I could do it until I identified the lie that I had been living, that had been planted somewhere in my life that didn't belong there at all.
So I'm loving this, Gideon. This is amazing. I was going to ask you, so it's a two-parter, okay? I've realized as you were just mentioning this, one of my limiting beliefs is one of the things I struggle to believe is that I struggle to believe I can change multiple things at once, right? I'm really good at the I am statements. To some extent, probably not as good as you are, Gideon. I am good at uprooting some of those lies that are holding me back. But one of the lies that just came up is I've got 12 lies I need to defeat. I can only do one at a time. And so I'm curious, in your experience, because you're obviously really good at this, has that sped up your ability to overcome those lies? Like, do you feel like you're at a point where you can just uproot them really, really quickly? What are some tips on just moving through this process at a faster pace?
Yeah, so I would say two things. Number one is back to the leverage. These high leverage adjustments that tackle multiple lies, right? So like, let's say you have the lie that you don't believe you can be fit, right? Like, oh, I'm overweight. I've tried to lose weight multiple times. I don't think that I can be disciplined, and I don't think that I can be healthier, right? And so that's what's holding me down. But if you make the adjustment where you set out your running clothes and your shoes next to the bed every single morning, you wake up and like without even thinking, you hop in your shoes, you run out the door. Before you even think about whether you should do it or not, you start running. Now all of a sudden you're making two adjustments at once. You're changing your health and you're impacting your discipline, right? So that's higher leverage than just choosing one or the other. So that's the first thing I would say is like, it is oftentimes most effective to just choose one thing at a time, but there are opportunities for higher leverage things. Like, for example, me saying like, oh, I don't believe I can maintain scaled relationships over a prolonged period of time. I was in my mind saying like, I can't do these three things that stack up on top of each other that would enable me to do this thing. And it was by removing that lie that literally in a snap just vanished. So there were multiple things that I changed just from identifying that one high leverage lie that was holding me back.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me real quick, just to interrupt you, the idea of like, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. There's some things that we, like just I shared on my story, that if I'm believing for something that's not true, it's a lie, it has so many impacts. And then what you talked about too, was it reminded me of what James Clear talks about, the idea of habit stacking, where you're like, oh, when I brush my teeth, I do my affirmations and I do 10 push-ups and I do whatever. But like, there are certain things that it's not just stacking. It's like one activity can be stacking, right? Yeah. So it's like I go to a high level mastermind, and by doing that, I personally develop myself. I get in the room with amazing people. I could develop a business network. I can learn something. I actually have an opportunity to give back to other people. I also find a way to like reflect on how my life is working, right? So there's multiple things like one thing can do. And I'm a big fan of that too. So one of my goals is audiobooks. So I have like a stupid goal each year. So this year I think I'm at 97 books. And so I listen to audiobooks, I read them. And so, but it's a goal of mine. So I'm started picking some longer books now toward the end of the year because I have a little space here. But I realized like when I'm working out, I went for a run this morning, I can listen to an audiobook while I'm doing it, right? So I'm kind of getting a 2-in-1. I'm listening to something, I'm growing my mind while I'm growing my body. So it's really fun. I want to talk all day and night about personal growth because like this is like my jam. And I know it's Nate's jam, but I also want to talk about hotels, and we're going to get into the podcast area of the show. So I want to make sure we get to that because you're killing it. You're crushing it in boutique hotels. Talk to us about how you got started in boutique hotels. And then I think you have some things about, creative financing and how you like how did you get going in this, and kind of just from a high level, you have a mastermind that teaches people this, but like how did you get going in it, and what do most people not know about this?
Yeah, so I'll give the brief overview of my journey and how I pivoted to it, and then I'll break down exactly how I dove in. So my background is in tech, and my wife and I were both from San Antonio, but we didn't live there at the time. So we wanted to buy a short-term rental as an investment, and then also it'd give us a place to stay when we were in town for the holidays in San Antonio. So we knew we wanted to buy an asset, and then with my tech background, I'm constantly thinking of economies of scale. So I thought, if we're going to buy something, might as well fit as many doors under one roof as possible. So we looked for a fourplex, we bought it. We ended up renovating the units and automated about 95% of it. So the thing was ripping cash. And I was looking at this thing and I was like, dude, this is a fantastic vehicle. I want to scale it up. During that same period of time, however, my wife was becoming incredibly ill. Nobody knew what was going on with her. It started off with some mild brain fog, some migraines. And so we took her to the doctor. They ran blood panels, and they all came back as nothing being wrong. And so we didn't know what was going on. This continued to progress until it got so bad that she was bedridden for weeks at a time. Her brain fog was so bad that she had a hard time stringing sentences together. And we were basically like, we took her, I want to say, to about 9 doctors overall, specialists, generalists, ran every single test you can imagine, and everything came back as normal. And so I had to have a lot of like really, really hard conversations, long walks with a cup of tea, just like talking to God, saying like, I accept whatever you choose to do. Like I literally laid everything out on the table, ran out of every single option that I could think of. And just like, I will say though, like the valleys are where things grow. Everybody wants to be on the peak of the mountain because that has the best view, but life grows in the valleys. And so I really leaned into it and retrieved some of the most incredible nuggets of wisdom that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. So I'm very thankful for that season. Within that season, however, my mom, within a 4-month period, my mom got a form of cancer that has a 20% survival rate. And my dad was rushed to the ER with heart failure. And they said he needs a heart transplant or he's going to die. He had about a 5% survival rate. And so the 3 most important people in my life were seemingly at death's door. And I was hit with a experiential realization that there's no reason as to why I should live a full life, right? Like life can happen to anybody. We all have this like, okay, mid 70s, that's average life expectancy. Do the math. I have 45 years left. But the reality is that we could go at any moment, and there's no reason as to why we should make it that long. And of course, everybody has the expression of like, oh, you could go tomorrow, and life isn't guaranteed, etc. But I was hit with the experiential realization, like, oh, this like actually literally, there's no reason as to why I should wake up tomorrow because life just happens. Yeah. And so with that, I was looking at my investment portfolio. I was seeing that my wife was bedridden. I realized that if anything happened to me, her quality of life would plummet because I was the only one making money. She couldn't work. And so it forced me to choose a different investment vehicle. Like I could not just scale a short-term rental portfolio. I needed to get into commercial real estate to scale quickly. And so I needed a different vehicle. And
this is while your wife was sick. So your wife's literally bedbound. You're like, I got to do this yesterday. Let's get it going.
My wife's bedbound. And I thought like, I can't just buy real estate. I need to build a company that buys real estate. Like I need to get this ball rolling as quickly as possible. So if I get hit by a bus, she's still okay. Like planting seeds that the future is okay. And so pivoted to boutique hotels, just scaling the model that I had just seen work so well. And again, I didn't know a single person who even worked at a hotel, let alone owned a hotel. So back to what we were talking about before, I looked for a high concentration of individuals who had done the thing that I was trying to do. So I joined a group with multiple people who owned hotels. And to them, the way that they talked about buying hotels, it was, the way we talk about going and grabbing a bite to eat. It was just, why wouldn't I buy a hotel? You can just go buy a hotel.
Go get a hamburger, fries.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's so crazy about buying a hotel? Yeah. And just to really hit this thing home is when we bought the hotel, there were friends that I called and I'd let them know like, oh yeah, we just bought a hotel. And they'd say, oh my gosh, that's insane. You bought a hotel? I'd say, yeah, I bought a hotel. They're like, oh my gosh, that's like one of the craziest things I've ever heard. I've never heard of anybody buying a hotel. And then there were other people who I met through the process, and I called them and said, yeah, I bought a boutique hotel. And they'd say, oh, how many units? And I'd say 24. And they'd say, oh, wow, that really is boutique. And it's like, just those different responses.
The crazy thing, too, and this is the thing, once you start being about something big in your life, a lot of people just like they don't know how to relate because they're not people that are creating a bigger future for themselves. And so, like you said, oh my gosh, that's absolutely crazy. And it does sound crazy, especially if you're starting, like you're listening, you're like, I want to do this for myself. It's like, well, that's crazy. I don't know anybody that's done this, whatever. But then you get into it, and then like I've raised $50 million now, and that happened just from like putting one foot in front of the other and continuing to try to create the brighter future. But it still sounds crazy, right? But it's only crazy until you do it and you actually get some experience. And then once you got the first one done, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like buying a hamburger. Like you kind of know, like I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and it's not crazy to people who have raised $500 million, right? So it's like, okay, pay whatever you have to pay to get into the room where what you've done like feels small. Like when I saw those different conversations, I was like, I need to be hanging out more with the guy who's like, oh, wow, that really is boutique. Like those are the people who are going to shift my mindset and my perspective around how to engage the world so I will engage it differently. Like buying a $20 million hotel doesn't sound crazy. It used to sound crazy. Now it sounds like, oh yeah, I'd go, like I'm interested in going and buying a burger. It's just the only difference is the number of zeros and the mindset and how you approach it. That's literally the only difference. It doesn't matter. It's not about like, oh, do you know the right people? Do you know this and that? Like, yeah, that's helpful, but you pick those things up along the way after you've shifted your mindset, after you've stepped into rooms where people's reality is your dream. Because then it stops being a dream. Now it becomes something that you live. Instead of like doing different things to get an outcome, you become the different person that can achieve those outcomes. And the best way to do that is to step into rooms where people have done it.
So walk us through like the next level, because you have been very successful, Gideon, right? You just shared what you did in the past. What are some of those next rooms that you're trying to get into? What are some of those current limiting beliefs that you have? Walk us through the process of how are you currently conquering some of those limiting beliefs? What are some of the new rooms that you're trying to get into? What's next on the horizon that you're still figuring out, and how do you go through that process?
That's a really good question. So number one is doing the journaling exercise, like I mentioned before, listing out my goals in explicit detail. I should be able to describe my vision in as crystal clear detail as I can describe my present moment. Like I'm sitting here, sitting on this chair, I'm talking to this mic, I'm talking to you guys. Like I can describe this in excruciating detail, and that's the level of detail that I need to be able to describe my goals and my vision. The second step is then, so that's the lag measure, I'll say. The lead measure is listing out the individual goals that will take me to that further future. As I list out those individual goals, I ask myself, which ones kind of freak me out and which ones don't freak me out? And the ones that don't freak me out need to be bigger so that they freak me out. And the ones that freak me out, I need to ask myself why they freak me out. And it's this process of, it's like working out at the gym. Like you lift weights that are really heavy and hard, and it should hurt, and you should ask yourself, why does it hurt? And it hurts because it's stretching you, which is good. It's tearing your muscle. And if you lift weights and it's not hard, you should think about why you're lifting such light weights. So I'll go through that exercise, listing everything out, and identify my self-limiting beliefs. I describe it to my friend as I'm looking for these layers of lies that I've layered on top of myself from what people have said, and I'm trying to find the biggest sledgehammer that I can find to shatter those, to find out who at the core of me is Gideon. Like people walk around thinking that they know who they are and that they're them, but they're not. They're this culmination of experiences and lives that they've lived. And if they just find a freaking big enough sledgehammer to smash it and to find out who they actually are and what they actually want, what they're actually capable of, people would have a lot more of what they're going for.
Yeah, I want to go speed round here. This is awesome, and I love it, and you got a lot to say, and we got a lot to say as well. So if I'm new to hotel investing as a passive investor, how is it different than investing in apartments? And if you can give it just kind of short answers, it'd be great, or kind of this is what it is, and we'll kind of just want people to have an understanding of that. Like as an investor, why would I do this?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the return profile tends to be really strong. Boutique hotels specifically, a lot of that is because they're very cash flow heavy. The other reason is because it's a less saturated space, but it's becoming more saturated. So over the last 5 years, for example, self-storage really popped off, became very saturated. So the cap rates got really low, got really aggressive. Same thing happened in multifamily post-COVID. There's a lot of big money that was just looking to preserve their wealth, and they parked it in multifamily. Boutique hotels is that next wave that's coming, along with assisted living. So Nate, what you're getting into, that's another massive wave from the silver tsunami. Also, Rao Group, is that with Alex Schloe?
No, I believe it's a different one.
Okay, because my buddy Alex has a group as well, the REL. I thought that was the same group, but anyway, yeah. So it just has less demand right now, but the wave is coming for more demand, and so generally speaking, investors can find a better return on that investment.
Yeah, Gideon, I love it, man. I love what you're creating for yourself, and again, the stuff that I think is the most impactful is the mindset piece, and just to continue creating a brighter future, because that's what actually shows up. And if anybody's listening and they're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, what is this whole mindset stuff? The book Think and Grow Rich is huge. Books that really help you to see yourself different, and the activities that can help you get there are huge. So encourage you to take a look at that. Gideon, this has been a real pleasure, man. How can people, first of all, let me acknowledge you. You're someone who's creating big things in your life. You're creating a brighter future for your family, for yourself. And just, the story was really vivid to me about how your wife is sick and you're like, I'm going to do this now. And so for a lot of us, we have that moment where things like it gets real. It's like this, okay, this is going to happen. It's got to be me and it's got to be now. And then out of necessity, we do it and then we create some phenomenal results. Like the mom who like lifts a car to like get her, person or a kid who's stuck below the car. So like it actually is like, that's impossible, but she did it. Right. Like, and so I love that. And I love what you're creating for your investors as well. And for your team and for your mastermind. How can people reach out to you, connect with you, figure out, find out what you're doing and follow your show?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on Instagram. It's Gideon Spencer _. That's GIDEON SPENCER _. And my podcast that Bronson was just on, it was a great episode, is The Hunt for Incredible, where we break down the mindsets and actions that people did to accomplish incredible things so that the listeners can apply it to their own lives.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. I'm just following you on Instagram here now with many other followers. It's great. So awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being a part of this. Nate, want to just wrap with you for a minute here. I really love this interview just about, really what does it take to be someone who's building a successful future? You have to be creating something bigger and better for yourself than where you're currently at, or else you're just going to get the same results. Is that the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. And when many of us just do that for years and years and years, and then we also blame ourselves because we're like, why didn't I get this sooner? So I think that's my biggest takeaway. What about for you? What's your biggest takeaway, Nate, from this?
So I am literally implementing this right now, because if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. But I am going to this week today, starting today, write down the affirmations I don't really believe and every single reason I don't believe them, and really, ask myself, which of these lies really freak me out? Because chances are, those are the lies I need to spend the bulk of my energy on. So Gideon, thank you for encouraging me to do that. I think this conversation is really going to make a meaningful difference in my life.
Awesome. Yeah, shoot me a text afterwards. Love to hear how it goes.
Awesome. Well, you guys, our listeners, you've been spending time with Nate Hambrick, Gideon Spencer, and Bronson Hill. And really how you get better is getting in the rooms with amazing people. So if you haven't heard about our upcoming Wealth Forum meeting, December 12th in Pasadena, it's going to be phenomenal. We're almost sold out, but we do this periodically. We've got just amazing people flying in from all around the world, including Mikey Taylor, who's a famous professional performer, professional skateboarder. We got Jason Hartman, Russ Gray, and Brian Burke are some of our speakers, and just amazing, amazing people in the room. So whatever you're doing, get yourself in a room where you are the least smart person in the room, right? You get in a place where you are going to grow and it's going to open up so much for you. So appreciate everybody taking the time. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show. You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.